Hey, deserving listeners, it's time to continue our journey with Ed and Rose. This is the Psychology in Seattle podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Kirk Honda. I'm a therapist and a professor, and I've been both of those things for over 20 years. So whenever I watch these shows, I have a lot of things to say. So let's see what I have to say while reacting to this TV show.
I'm going to give you the best foot massage you've ever had, okay? So just relax, breathe. Let me hold your champagne. And you can go ahead and take off your robe. Are you happy?
Yeah.
So it's really sweet that Ed is doing this. It's a good sign that he is willing to take care of her and to think about her needs. But again, as I've been saying in previous videos with Ed and Rose, I wish maybe they're having this experience and they're not showing it on the TV show, but I wish that they could have actual exchanges, heart-to-heart communication, questions about who the other person is, this kind of stuff, because although romance and these kinds of gestures are awesome, what typically really bonds people is when you get to really know each other and you look into each other's eyes and wonder what's going on in that head and in that soul, and you exchange those notions and questions of who are you and what makes you tick and what are your dreams and tell me about your childhood and how do you feel about me and this is how I feel about you and this is what happened, like those kinds of things. Now, maybe that's just my cultural pocket and my privilege of, having all that kind of communication. Me meaning that I privilege that kind of communication. I value that in my cultural pocket. But I always just wonder, like, Ed seems to be pursuing her a lot, but does he really know her as a person? Have they gotten to know each other prior to this over Skype? Does she really feel like she knows him? Or is she still kind of like deer in the headlights, which it almost seems like she is?
How do you say kiss in Tagalog?
Halik.
Halik.
Yeah.
Okay. May I halik you?
Yes, please.
The other again.
Okay.
The middle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, one kiss. Can you lean it? Okay.
So this is a pretty awkward moment, I have to say. But Ed is wanting to get some romance going, and he wants to start heading down the road, and he thinks that this is the beginning of the trailhead, if you will, that he doesn't want to just rush into having sex, that he's going to start with a foot rub, he's going to start with a little kiss, and, he's romancing her, he's building up to things. I always just wonder how Rose feels about this sort of stuff, because the show doesn't really show us. Does she feel exploited? Is she into it? I don't know. Hopefully we'll find out.
What about on the lips?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
It's just awkward. I mean, I feel like a voyeur. You're watching a pretty intimate moment between two people. I know these people, I'm guessing, signed contracts to say that they're cool. Maybe they even like to be on shows like this.
I want her to feel my love, and I want to hold her, and, and the things that people in love do. Cheers. It's been 28 years. I want that again. I love you.
Love you.
Really?
Really.
Really?
He says, I love you. And she says, I love you too, in a very unconvincing way. He says, really? She says, really, really. It just has all these awkward valences to it. I don't know. Dating can be awkward. There's nothing wrong with that. But if I were there, I would encourage Ed to just talk with her. Just ask her who she is and what she wants and what her dreams are and what she wants out of life, what her favorite food is, what her favorite place in the world is, or what those kinds of things are the ways in, because when you talk about that, you often will talk about your vulnerabilities and your joys and your sadnesses and your griefs and your triumphs, and through that exchange and vulnerability, people tend to bond. And so maybe they'll get to there. I'm guessing it'll be awkward if they do. Let's see what happens.
Did you and Ed get intimate last night?
Not as intimate. It's good night. Love you. Sleep.
Really?
Yeah.
Last night?
Yeah.
Tell me the truth.
Ayoko.
Okay, now we're starting to see Rose's personality. This is good. She's very playful, which is fun to see.
Last night we made love. It was awesome.
It's like Chris Farley. It's like, remember when we made love? Yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome.
Okay, here's the deal. Don't be mad at me, but last night when I noticed that your legs were kind of like mine. They were hairy.
What?
Yeah. So I'll make you a deal. If you shave your legs, I'll shave my beard.
Why? They shave my legs.
Leg hair, it just seems kind of less feminine for a woman. So I don't like leg hair.
So I'm concerned that Ed can't recognize that she's from a different culture. That he says leg hair is not feminine for a woman in San Diego or in the United States or whatever. I don't know about the Philippines, but regardless, you don't want to colonialize other people's cultures. Now, I will say there's nothing wrong with Ed saying, can you shave your legs? Because that's what I like. It's totally up to you. You do not have to shave your legs if you don't want to. It's also okay for her to say, I'd like you to shave your beard because I don't like the way it feels. You can keep your beard if you want to, but I'd like you to shave it. So there's nothing wrong with that request, but if it comes across as controlling or discounting someone's culture, it might point to an overall problem of Ed recognizing that the way that he thinks and the assumptions that he has are not the way everyone thinks and the way all people have. Americans and privileged cultures tend to think that way. They tend to think that, like, for example, the hairy legs thing, people from privileged cultures and traditionally colonializing cultures will tend to think like that's just natural. Of course, hairy legs on women is not feminine. That of course, that's just a given. And when other people don't do that, like in the Philippines, that's because they don't understand how to be feminine, or they don't have enough resources to be feminine, or whatever the assumption is, assuming that this other culture has the exact same value that you do, when of course, why would they? Hairy legs has nothing to do with femininity. It has everything to do with culture and gender play. You know, we play gender, which is fine. You know, I play gender. I have hair that is mostly man hair. I wear mostly man clothes. I do the man thing because I like to play the man thing because I consider myself to be a man thing. So there's nothing wrong with gender play, but there is something concerning about assuming that your gender associations are the given. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with her saying, I want you to shave the beard, and him saying, I would like it if you shaved your legs. But I wonder how much power she feels she has to push back. That's a huge question here. Does she feel like she can say no? I don't know.
It's gross. So it's soft. Your legs will be soft like my skin. Come on. Either that or you kiss me.
No, guys. Okay.
So I will say that as an Asian person, I hang out with a lot of Asians because we feel comfortable around each other. And I've hung out with a lot of Filipinos. And that thing she did is very Filipino. I can't tell you how many times I've seen Filipino people just
What do you see?
I see what I like. Very nice.
You too. Shave your beard.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you positive?
Go.
Okay. So she seems to be able to say, now you do it. And, tit for tat. I did something for you. Now you do something for me. So that shows that she has some agency in that.
This is real poverty. Is this where you grew up?
Yeah.
And you think I'll be safe?
Yeah, of course. I protect the mosquitoes.
Oh my God.
Okay, I like it when she can kind of play with him a little bit. Watch out for mosquitoes. So that's showing some agency and some personality. That's promising.
How you feel? It's my hometown.
I'm like, holy, you know, it's like a third world country.
Did you not know that before, Ed? Maybe she didn't explain it to you. It's surprising that he wouldn't know that already. I mean, I guess it's just common for a lot of people just not to know the conditions that other people live around the world. But I'm just surprised he doesn't know that already. I mean, he's planning on marrying her, and he doesn't really know the basic conditions in which the town that she grew up in.
As nice as this welcome party was for me, I'm still trying to find out whether or not Rose was involved with her sister asking me for money. And now that I've seen how Rose lives, it makes me even more concerned.
Again, I'm just surprised that he would be surprised. He just hasn't traveled much or hasn't met people from these kinds of communities, or was trying to be in denial of that because to acknowledge that would raise red flags that Rose was only into him because of money, and he didn't want to think about that because he has a lot of attachment injuries, I'm guessing, in his past, and really wants it to be true love. And if she comes from what he calls a third world country, then it challenges that notion, and he doesn't want to accept that notion. I don't know, it's just, I'm surprised that he's surprised.
I'm worried that I'm her meal ticket and her way out of the Philippines.
And as I've said before in other videos, both can be true. She can both consider you a meal ticket and also like you and want to continue to see where the relationship is going. Both can be true. When you come from a community in which everything is in question, money, food, shelter, safety, medical care, your child's education, your own education, employment. Safety is another issue that I probably haven't talked about, of like, when you have money, you can afford security guards, you can afford walls, you can afford doors, you can afford your own personal protection. And when you're a young woman and there's the lack of security, lack of police protection, you could be extremely wide open, potential to be a victim of any kind of crimes. And so there's just a tremendous amount of insecurity that you live in. Now, Rose isn't walking around like jittering and giving us visual cues as to the terror of what it might be like to be a young woman in her town, but we could imagine. And the fantasy, whether it's true or not, for a young woman to be like, so this American guy is going to marry me and take me to the United States, where I'll have walls, I'll have doors, I'll have security, I'll have healthcare, I'll have pocket change, I'll have savings, I'll have a retirement account. My kid will go to school all the way through college and become a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, and he'll be happy, and he'll meet someone, and they'll be happy together, and my grandkids will be happy, and my great grandkids will be happy, and I'll be able to really do that. And I'm kind of attracted to this guy, and I can tolerate him, and he's nice enough. And maybe I'll fall in love with him, or maybe I'm in love with him. Both of those things can exist at the same time. And so I worry that for Ed, he's dichotomizing that. It's like, if there's any evidence that she is motivated partially by money, then this whole thing is a farce, which really just discounts the reality of what it's like for Rose to live. I'm making a lot of assumptions. I don't know if Rose would agree with my take on her situation, but it's at least a possibility that Ed should be considering. The other thing I'll say is that I feel terrible for Ed because he is probably in super high humidity, 90 degrees plus, and I hate that kind of environment. I would be all of my sweat glands are in my head, and it just pours out of my head. And if I was sitting right next to him, I would be sweating just as much as him, and I just hate that feeling. So I empathize with Ed and his heat situation. All right, well, that does it for that episode of Psychology in Seattle. Please subscribe, hit the bell below, and become a patron on patreon.com. And as always, I want to remind everyone that these videos are not a replacement for clinical treatment. If you need help, if you need clinical treatment, make sure you get your own therapist. You deserve to have that. Sometimes it takes a while to find the right one. You have to shop around. So make sure that you do that for yourself. And also comment below, what do you think about the things I've been saying thus far? And tune in next time when we continue with the Ed and Rose story on 90 Day Fiancé. And please take care of yourself because you deserve it, and take care of others because they deserve it. Do all those things, please, because it makes the world a better place.